Welcome, everyone, and we are so thrilled that you have joined Operation Parent Jake White and Dr. Crystal Collier this afternoon. We are having a beautiful afternoon here in Kentucky, and I am so excited to help you close out your 2024 strong with two of the most committed and engaging preventional experts I've had the pleasure of working with. You're guaranteed to be introduced to new prevention resources today and walk away with conversations that you have to have with your teens over holiday break. I'm excited for you to know how to participate with us today. You're going to get a recording of the webinar, just so you know, our most frequently asked question. You will get a recording within the next 5 hours. For those of you that are joining us live, you will also receive a certificate of attendance within 24 hours, which will be sent to you in a separate email from the recording. The survey is very brief, and you guys have been so generous, those of you that have been with us before, in giving us feedback that definitely guides this webinar program. We read and take in every word, and we're so thankful that you take the time to do that. It's going to be a quick pop-up directly after the webinar, and I promise you it will only take about 2 minutes to complete. And as I've said, we utilize it all. Our mission here at Operation Parent is to love and support parents by providing real-world information, connection, and most importantly, hope. We have a really exciting 2025 on the way, so stay tuned. We're planning to tackle vaping, alcohol, mental health, and opioids, all in the front part of 2025. So watch our website for those registrations. We are tackling prevention science in action today, as I mentioned to you, with Dr. Crystal Collier and Jake White. I want to tell you just a little bit about each of them, and then we are going to get rolling. Dr. Crystal Collier is herself a person in long-time recovery. Her clinical work focuses on adolescents and adults suffering from mental illness, behavioral problems, and substance use disorders. Her areas of expertise include adolescent neurodevelopment, prevention programming, parent coaching, and addiction treatment, just to name a few. She's an author of the Neuro Whereabouts Guide and a children's series all about neuro, which I cannot recommend enough. You can find those on Audible. You can find them in print. We're going to tell you about those today. You're going to want these for your prevention library in 2025. Jake White is the co-founder of Vive18. He's an author, a host of an awesome podcast titled The Drug Prevention Power Hour, which I've been binge listening to and can also highly recommend that. He's a national speaker and sought-after expert in the field of youth drug prevention. He spends an enormous amount of time in schools, so we need to listen to him. He's gifting the schools with high-energy prevention programs and sober events. He's helping students overcome peer pressure with extreme confidence so that they can become resilient, passionate leaders in communities. Who doesn't want that, right? He coaches our teens to be true to themselves and their futures. So it's my pleasure at this point to turn it over to Dr. Collier, who's going to take you into our content for today.
Wonderful. Thank you, Michelle. What a great introduction. And I'm really excited to be here today with you guys and Jake White. He's really an amazing energy. So please, please, please think about bringing him to your schools and your neighborhoods. Today, I'm going to share with you about some information that you can literally apply on a daily basis. If you are a parent, if you're a school administrator, a counselor, a clinician, anybody who loves or works with kids, I want you to think about prevention science as a field of study that takes a look at all of the things that might be included in what we study that creates unwanted behavior, and what we can do to protect kids from that. So the prevention science field looks at different evidence-based programs that can actually help prevent risky behavior or promote health behavior. And what you're looking at here is Bronfman Brenner. That's a big name, but he created an ecological systems theory to really outline all the different systems, the complex interplay of systems that individuals, specifically our kids, grow up in. And it's very important to think about all of these different systems when we're creating a prevention program, because we don't want to just target a student. We want to target their parent, their school administrator, their community, their family environment. But that sounds like a lot of work to do. And so what we can focus on are, okay, how can we build protective factors and how can we decrease the risk factors? So this is a graphic that came from my book, The Neuro Whereabouts Guide, that just briefly picks up on a few of these at the individual, family, and environmental level. And so depending upon what your role is with the students or the kids that you love, thinking about not only these risk and protective factors, but what they look like at different stages and ages of development. And so when I was writing my dissertation program, I had the honor to create a program at a local high school here in Houston, Texas, where I live, that teaches kids the neurodevelopmental effects of risky behavior. And what I really believe is that all prevention needs to be grounded in science and, of course, tailored to the different stages and ages of development. And so when I created my first program, it was at a high school. And when I was interviewing kids, I realized that there were so many different factors and things that started their choices about risky behavior that went really back, pretty far back to cultural family characteristics. And so this is why I created some video scripts. And then a friend of mine who works at an elementary school, she helped me really narrow those scripts down so they would be developmentally appropriate at younger and younger stages. And so I got to write a children's book series called Know Your Neuro, Adventures of a Growing Brain. Now, book one is all about teaching kids about their brain and their brain development, the two different parts, so they can learn how to love their brain, protect their brain. And then the rest of the series, starting with the second book, is all about going on adventures with neuro to grow certain executive functioning skills. Now, these are tried and true scripts and books. As you can see, this is me at an elementary school, actually piloting some of this information at, I believe this was a kindergarten level class that I was in, or maybe first grade. It was such a fun thing to do, to actually get feedback from kids to see, okay, what worked, what didn't work. And so there's a K through 2 version and a 3 through 5 version. So I want to share with you guys how we want to teach kids about the brain. And using Dr. Lawrence Steinberg's quote is kind of a great way to begin. This is what we do in the Know Your Neuro, Adventures of a Growing Brain, book 1. We teach kids that there's a part of the brain called the accelerator that is fully developed by the time we're age 11 or 12. The part of the brain that makes us go, sometimes go too fast. Then the part of the brain that applies the brakes, the frontal lobe, or the prefrontal cortex. That's the part that makes us slow down, stop, think about things. That is fully online and grown by the time we're 24, 25 years old. So that first stage of brain development, from birth to about puberty, we grow 200 billion neurons. It's like we get this big chunk of clay, and our job in the second phase is to whittle that down into what will be our adult masterpiece, with about 100 billion neurons left over. The reason we get rid of half of perfectly good neurons is because we have to grow connectors. So this is one of my favorite slides. I have this in every book that I've written, interestingly, because it shows you some infant neurons, little baby neurons over there on the left, going all the way up until age 2. You can see the connectors. Those are called dendrites that are growing and connecting as we learn and develop our skills. And by the time we're 25 years old, every neuron in our brain is connected to 10,000 other neurons. That's a lot of connections that have to fit inside of your skull. So literally, they squish in there, making all those funky wrinkles and grooves in our brain. Now, remember, all of this development is contingent upon the brain's rule. We've got to teach this to kids and to parents, that not only do they need to protect their brain, but they got to follow the brain's rule, use it or lose it. If we use those dendrites, if we use those networks, more and more connectors grow for what we call executive functioning skills. And here are the lists that we include in that. Remember that executive functioning skills are just your basic thinking, feeling, and doing skills, but they all grow based upon the brain's rule. So if you do your problem solving and decision making for your kiddo, they're not going to grow networks for that, but they will grow long networks for dependency on you to do their problem solving and decision making. So what I really believe your battle cry as a parent, a clinician, a school administrator should be dendrites, dendrites, dendrites. Grow lots of those skills and reward and praise kids when they show developmental progress. So speaking of that, what we're going to do is start from birth to age 4. How can you literally apply prevention science principles starting very, very young to result in a kiddo who has empowerment and a feeling of confidence, comfortable in their own skin, to not only protect their brain and body, but to be able to say no to risky behavior and stay safe? So when we think about this stage of development, I want you to think about one of the most important protective factors, and that is attachment. So we know that it just takes one adult to care and create secure attachment to and with a kiddo to provide that first scaffolding layer of brain development. And the way that we do that is through a process of attunement. So we have these amazing mirror neurons all over our brain, a lot of them in our frontal lobe, that automatically mimic other people's emotional reactions. So if a baby smiles, you automatically smile. If a baby gets upset, oh my God, and grimaces, you mimic that back. And then what happens is when you dysregulate because they're dysregulated, you move in to soothe that kiddo and figure out what they need and want. And then they get soothed. We call that process co-regulation. And so helping parents at this very early stage understand early childhood development and brain development really will focus on how can you become the most secure attached figure that there is. And so one of the things to know is the 4 different attachment styles. So this is a graphic that's in my parent guide that just has a little bit of information about what this looks like. On knowyourneuro.org, there's some really great on the parent page attachment style quizzes that you can take to really figure out which attachment style that you have. But remember, being a secure attachment figure means that you are consistently showing up for a kid's life with love and limits. And then when kids grow up, they feel okay. They feel like everybody else is okay. They can keep themselves safe if they have a secure attachment. Kids who grow up with a parent who has a different attachment style, who is maybe inconsistent or they didn't feel safe with that person, they may have problems later on in life that show up in their adult relationships and ability to attach. So what we want to be able to do, now please know, I know this slide is really, really wordy, but I just wanted to highlight with which you can see there in yellow, that we can literally figure out, okay, What do I need to sound like? How do I need to act? How can I show up verbally and non-verbally with my kiddo to really create the healthiest attachment style possible? And then how can I identify some of the things that are maybe not so helpful and go back and start changing those things? All right, so those are the things to work on in that first stage. Let's go to the second stage of neurodevelopment, called age 5 through 8, the social comparison stage. And we say that because this is usually the time when we start going to school and we get compared to other people. This is kind of when we find out, oh, wait, where do I stand in that bell curve? And one of the most important things to do here, an application of prevention science, is to know your parenting style. We want to make sure we build self-efficacy and esteem. We want to make sure we give kids chores. We'll talk about that in a second. Emotional literacy, setting clear expectations, and creating a family code. So let's dive into the stage. These are Baumgardner's 4 parenting styles, and the healthiest one is authoritative. And so what you can see is some of the adjectives that describe that particular parenting style: high love, high limits. The other parenting styles have some research attached to them that shows negative outcomes in our kids who grow up with parents that have that type of parenting style. And this is a graph that shows you what some of those are. So you guys can see if we have permissive authoritarian styles, we grow up with self-esteem hits. We might grow up with more aggressive kind of behavior, lower achievement. Definitely if we have uninvolved or neglectful parents. And so take a parenting style quiz and figure out, okay, what are the characteristics of being an authoritative parent? And here's kind of the good news about this too. If you are co-parenting with somebody that's more permissive and you're more authoritarian, if you guys can negotiate well, you actually literally make the perfect parent. And that might mean you need some parent coaching or some couples therapy to help you guys get on the same page. It is critically important to do that when kids are young. Now, here is how this relates to building self-efficacy and what that has to do with self-esteem. It's important to remember that how valuable we feel, how worthy, our self-esteem is a little bit more like a feeling. It can go up and down in one given day. But if our self-efficacy is high, that directly correlates to higher self-esteem. And so self-efficacy is that feeling that you can accomplish something. You can make things happen in the world if you set your mind to it. And one of the best things to do to build self-efficacy, which will in turn increase self-esteem, is by giving chores. When we do everything for kids because we think, oh, well, we're the parent, we're supposed to do all those things, we actually take away kids' opportunities to learn and thrive and build self-efficacy. And so this is a graphic from my parenting guide that shows a lot of the different age-appropriate chores. So here's your mantra besides dendrites, dendrites, dendrites. It is, if they can, they should. Repeat that after me, you guys. If they can, they should. If they can do their laundry, they should. If they can make their lunch, they should. This really gives you an idea. As we grow our brain, we want to make sure that we give them age-appropriate chores along the way. One of the best skills that you can teach kids is how to be emotionally literate. But remember, feelings are not facts. They just give us information. And one of the best things that you can do here is to teach kids how to understand and identify their emotions and then ask themselves, what does this emotion mean that I need or want? What does my body need or want? I'm hungry. I need to eat. I'm sad. I need a hug. I'm angry or I need a timeout. My book, Know Your Neuro Feels Feelings, discusses those steps, and there's some free videos on the website and YouTube that also discuss what emotional literacy is. Because if kids know how to feel their feelings and cope, remember, out of the 7 primary feelings, only 2 of those are positive. We've got to get good at learning how to deal with feelings that are not comfortable to feel. And if we do, we don't need to smoke them away, drink them away, use technology to distract ourselves away from those feelings. The next neurodevelopmental stage is age 9 to 12, right when the onset of puberty is coming online. This is unfortunately when a lot of kids are exposed to high risk behavior. This is also when individuation and differentiation starts to develop. It's also the period of time when friends are more important to humans than any other time in our developmental lifespan. This is also really important for their school to be healthy and safe, and to create positive norm building and refusal skills. So let's talk a little bit about how to do that. Prevention science says that we need a lot of time to build social skills. And so doing sleepovers and slumber parties are really great for that, but it's also where a lot of high risk behavior is introduced to kids. And so in my book, I have the whereabouts log and a script there that says what you should say to the other parent. When you call them up and said, hey, our kids want to spend time together, I just want to make sure we're on the same page as far as risky behavior goes. You know, do you have firearms that are locked up? Do you have alcohol that's in a refrigerator? What is your view on video games and first person shooter? We need to be able to team up, tribe up with parents, feel empowered to give our kids safe spaces to learn social skills, hang out together, and build all of those really amazing things that they need as they start to launch in and individuate and differentiate from us. Now, when we go to the next stage, which is 13 to about 16, we are right in the throes of puberty and early individual identity development. If we come out of this really confused about who we are or what our direction is in life, that may have some negative effects as we go through the next stages. Now, most of us don't come out of this stage firmly knowing exactly what our identity is, but we do need to allow a lot of room for kids to try on a little different behavior. But what we want to make sure we do is set very firm limits about what is okay and what is not okay to engage in. Kids need to be able to seek novelty, but they also need to know what the consequences are if they engage in high risk behavior. Now, also remember, when kids are in this stage, they're usually the most argumentative that they're ever going to be. And that is actually a sign of healthy development. That means their abstract reasoning skills are coming online. Remember, though, you do not have to bite those power struggle worms. What you can do is set firm limits and ask them lots of open-ended questions, but also make sure that respect is appropriate when arguing. These are times when body image comes up and a lot of other issues during this stage that we want to use as conversation starters for family dinner. So remember that family dinners are protective. It's really interesting. When I work with social workers and clinicians, I always ask, hey, ask your families how many meals they eat together. If you can just increase that by 1 or 2, you will actually see an incremental decrease in high risk behavior. The Family Dinner Project is a great website to get information and dinner questions to ask your kids. Also, it's a really great time to put the family code on the table or on the wall so you can refer to it when you're talking about risky behavior. On the Know Your Neuro Family and School page, there's a family code building workshop that you can do at your school or your church to build that so that you have conversations and a conversation a point of reference to talk about risky behavior. We want to make sure that when we're having these talks, and I challenge you as families, 6 prevention talks, 10 minutes long per year. That's all you need to do. It has to be consistent. Remember, a kid's brain grows and is different every 3 months, a totally different brain. And so that's about the frequency that you want to have these talks. And I give you scripts for all of them in the book. We want to make sure our kids know how to critically analyze media. I can't tell you how many youth or teen shows are out there that depict underage sex, violence, lots of drug and alcohol use. And when kids see that, it normalizes that for them. We want to make sure we're sitting with them and challenge that so it's not normalized. We want to teach them what a medicine is and what a medicine isn't, especially if you live in a state where there are drugs that are legalized that are really not medicines. Now, remember, as kids move through this stage, on average, girls gain about 40 pounds during this stage. And if girls don't know that's coming, it may really freak them out. We need to make sure that we talk about body changes and address body image issues as they come. If parents just have that conversation beforehand, so especially girls know what to expect, it actually eases the negative feelings that come from gaining that type of weight. We also start exploring relationships. And so in this chapter of my book, I talk about dating guidelines and when we should start to let go and let independent relationships start. And also how to teach kids what a sexual identity is and what a healthy way to practice your sexual identity by staying safe and connected to yourself, as well as learning how to set boundaries. Now, the last stage that we go through, age about 17 to 21, is when we're really starting to increase our autonomy and independence. This is also when we start really exploring deeper intimacy in relationships. We still have all the drama and the chaos most of the time that came from previous stages, but remember, all that drama and chaos is really developmentally important because we need to figure out how to have immature relationships before we first have mature relationships. This is when we see morality start to really take hold. When kids make decisions based upon principle and social connection and contract. Remember, moral decision making is not the prominent way kids make decisions. Most kids make it out of self-interest if they are not going to get caught. So don't hold them against that. That's being a brain savvy parent and knowing their neuro whereabouts, where their development is in each stage, and how to parent to that. Now, that doesn't mean you should let things go, but make sure you ask them and support them in making healthy decisions as they launch into next careers or educational environments. Now, speaking of launching, we want to make sure that it's healthy. This graph shows you how high-risk behaviors, especially drinking and binge drinking, are the highest in our developmental lifespan during our freshman year of college, in between about 21 to 25. Now, as you can see, drinking and binge drinking start to really taper off as we start to learn our lessons. But remember, teaching kids that it's not okay to drink underage is really critical to ensure healthy peak brain development. So when we launch them, we want to make sure that we support them in doing healthy behavior, keeping their brain healthy. And if kids have already shown drug and alcohol issue problems, we want to make sure that we let them know that they have to be a good steward of the investment that you're making in their tuition dollars, that you're not going to invest in a brain that's using drugs or alcohol or engaging in lots of risky behavior or playing video games all day long. And so doing drug testing at this point with a lab that's in that city is a really good idea if the child has earned that consequence, or letting them know if they have gotten in trouble that that will probably be the next step for them. Now, what's really important to remember, what do youth need to know? They need to know what your expectations are. They need to know that you care and love and support them, of course, but that you expect them to keep their brain clean and sober from drugs, that you expect them to delay alcohol use until the age of 21 or above. And I know a lot of parents are like, oh, how can I keep that from happening? Well, you may not be able to keep them from experimenting, but you can share what your expectation is. And when kids say, well, what's going to happen if I do? Then you let them know we're going to have some consequences for that. And we'll talk about that then. But it's really important that you guys share your expectations, feel empowered to be firm as well as loving and supportive. Remember that youth are definitely, you're not alone in this. We need to make sure that they get as much connection as possible. Your self-talk or their self-talk is going to sound a little bit like your self-talk. So you want to make sure that kids understand how their brain works. We want them to fall in love with protecting that brain and making sure that their inner self-talk sounds like an adult caring cheerleader instead of that critical, maybe kind of toxic voice that some of us carry around in our head. Now, what we also can do if we work in a school, if we work in a college environment, elementary, middle, any level, is to know the neuro whereabouts of our kids' brain. What are the stages of development? What's going on? Making sure that you offer this information to the parents in your environment. Please use my website, knowyourneuro.org, for this, because it is a plethora of really good free online content that teaches you and kids about their brain and all of the different skills that they can use, as well as how high-risk behavior affects it. Now, this was the model that I created when I did my dissertation at a local high school in Texas. What's really cool is the school is still using that model today. It's the model that knowyourneuro.org is based upon, and it is comprehensive prevention for the whole environment that a student lives with. We want to make sure we target the behaviors that they are dealing with and also increase those skills at the same time. We don't want to just say don't use drugs. We want to say don't use drugs, but use these skills so that you won't want to or need to use drugs. And now I have a really exciting job to present the next speaker. So I got to meet Jake as I was out there working working in the prevention world. And I've gotten to see some of his amazing work. He is a prevention expert that works with students. And I tell you, to see him in action is pretty amazing. And to watch how kids love his work and get them excited about prevention is pretty cool. So I want to introduce you guys to Jake White. Take it over.
Hey, thanks, Dr. Crystal. Also, check it out. I got my neuro whereabouts guide right here. I got the Operation Handbook, the Operation Parent Handbook, all the good stuff. So thank you very, very much. I want to pick up where Dr. Crystal left off. And that is kind of why I'm in this field, is because it's not one strategy that's going to help students not use drugs. It's not one person that can do it. It really is this holistic development of a student to make them believe so much in their life and their dreams and what they can do that they wouldn't think about putting something that could be poisonous into their system. And so my story really starts in college. I had decided that I wasn't going to drink or smoke. And because of this, I actually hit a social hurdle. And I wasn't sure how I was going to make friends, have fun, or feel good if I didn't drink or smoke like other people seem to be doing. And before this, I had seen addiction in my family, and I'd talked about it with my parents. They had set an example and a high expectation. And I decided, hey, I'm not going to follow that path. I see where it could lead. I see what it has done to some of my family members, and I don't want to do that. And for 2 whole years, I actually did not meet a single person who said, Jake, who cares that you don't drink or smoke? I don't either. And that's what I wanted. I wanted someone desperately to tell me that I wasn't alone. But instead, I got things like, wait, you don't drink at all. You don't smoke. This is college, Jake. This is Wisconsin. This is what we do. Like, how do you have friends? How do you have fun? All these questions. And so I began to question my own values, the protecting of my own goals. But I read this statistic, and it said that nearly 1 out of every 3 college students was just like me. And I remember hearing it thinking, well, why am I not meeting people then? Realize that when we decide we're going to be different, right? Or if we feel different, we don't go advertising that information around because we feel like it's going to further isolate us or people won't want to hang out with us. And so I learned to do that. And I thought, you know what? If this statistic is true, what if other people are making the same decision, but they're being silent about it too? I'm going to find out. And so I threw these college parties on my campus. And to make a long story short, thinking that no one would show up, by the end of one semester, I had hundreds of students coming to these drug-free events on college campus. Was sponsored by brands like Red Bull and Pizza Hut. And I had messages from students across the country asking, how can I do this at my school? I want to make good decisions, or I'm on the track team. And you know what? Like, I do that other weekends, but I want to stay safe and healthy for my teammates. Whatever their motivation was, they would tell me, and then they would ask for my help. And that simple question, that willingness to say, hey, I'm going to test this statistic and see if it's true, or I'm going to be the place people can go so they can feel a sense of belonging and acceptance and inclusion without any strings attached. And so the reason why I do what I do today is because I don't want to live in a world where young people think they need to sacrifice their health, their friends, or their future in order to fit in, make friends, and have fun. And that leads me into everything that Vive18 does today. And so I think Amanda's going to pull up a video for us, and then we'll dive right into some strategies that you can use and learn from based on what we've done.
Life is not made by chance. It's made by choice. So you can choose to learn how to take shortcuts for the rest of your life, or how to build skill sets. As we crave acceptance and belonging, and maybe food.
When I walk on stage at a school and get to share with students, knowing that it's okay to be different, it's okay to value your goals, because the default is to look at everyone else and saying, oh, what are they doing?
If you want to feel good now, I'll just pay for a pill. That's why it's a shortcut. On the contrary, the things that you said that you wanted at the beginning of this presentation, those are long-term goals. In other words, these are skill sets. These are things that you can learn.
My name is Jake White, and I'm a drug, alcohol, and vaping speaker. Awesome. So for us, our team, it's not just me. We have 5 incredible presenters. We have trainers, and our goal is really to fill in the gap. And so when Dr. Crystal talked about this comprehensive prevention practicing, is students are often the missing piece, because as adults, we want to tell them what they should do or educate them, but they're a lot more effective at educating each other and influencing each other. So our job at Vive18 is to, number one, show them that they can make a difference, that what makes them unique is not something that's negative, but they can use those skills and values they have to influence others and be a good influence on the world around them. And so after a speaking engagement, the students are invited to start their own drug-free club, or partner with a local coalition, or maybe just start a project if they have an existing club, and saying, how do you want to have a better impact on mental health and drug prevention in your community? Because you can save lives. And if someone as weird or awkward as I am can do this, you can absolutely do it. And then we teach them the skills and strategies to go ahead and do that work. And what I want to teach you right now is first talking about schools. Schools, what can we do if we want to further the influence of our young people, give them a platform to make change, and also do prevention effectively? And this is what it looks like from our viewpoint is we're giving them opportunities and education that is choice focused, it's fun, it's relatable, and it's age appropriate. What we're not doing is we're not using scare tactics. We're not using the just say no messaging or giving them boring lectures or talking down to them. And as someone who's been in the field for a decade, this seems like common practice. But when we look at the tactics and strategies used by schools across the country, I don't think the word is out yet. Prevention science shows us that scare tactics and telling students what to do doesn't work. We need to teach them the brain science. Like Dr. Crystal just taught to us, students want to know that. They want to know how they work and how they can best utilize their brain and their bodies to get what they want. We have to make it choice focused because we're going to emphasize what they want in life and then show how living a healthy life can get them all those things. We have to relate to them as well to show that this isn't about what used to work or something that's old and outdated or statistics for their future, but instead show them how this can help you get everything you want right now and in the future. You don't have to sacrifice your short-term, fun and friends for your long-term goals. When you do peer-led prevention, I'm just going to give you a couple tips. If you're on a coalition here and you're thinking, yes, we know this, but how do we do it effectively? There's two quick things. Number one, your invitation has to be really strong and really exciting. Don't set up a table in the lunchroom recruiting for a club or anything like that. You need a very high energy experience that empowers students to know that they can make a difference. And then that needs to lead into an invitation for them to complete a quick win project. And a quick win project is something they can do within 60 days before the momentum is lost, where they feel empowered and they go and do something. Host an event, have a mental health message and creativity project around school, whatever it is. Like, they need to have something that was their idea and then they do the work to implement it. And just like we talked about dendrites and connecting these activities and learning from them, that's what it's going to do for them. They're going to form these connections. They're going to be proud of themselves. They're going to build self-esteem. And it's all attributed to them joining this new peer-led club. And all of a sudden it takes a topic that honestly, like drug prevention is not a sexy topic, but you now have given them the tools to go make it something that's fun and where they can make friends and feel good and they can make a difference in the world. And this generation, they desperately want to change the world. Oftentimes they believe they can too, and they need people to believe in them as well and give them the tools to go ahead and do it. And that leads us to our proofs model. So when we look at prevention, we have this model that says, hey, it's not about just saying no, but we're equipping them with skills. And when you think about doing prevention and integrating it into your classroom, into social emotional learning, into life skills, into your national counselor standards, here's how we do it. Number one is you practice healthier ways to cope with stress and challenges. If they have better outlets, then they have tools to not use drugs to get those feelings. The R is to realize the influence marketing and media has on our culture. Oftentimes, we don't understand the tactics that marketers use because they understand our brain better than we do, and they will use that to sell us products. But if we understand it, how they work, we can choose whether we believe them or not. Also, to overcome obstacles while pursuing their goals. The reality is life does not really get easier. I know we like saying that, but it doesn't get easier. It's just that we get better. And so teaching them that your challenges in life aren't going to go away, but we're going to get better at overcoming those. And that takes work. We're also going to help them create a vision of their life that's worth protecting. Because if you have a reason to say no to a drug and to do something better, it's because you envision a value of your life and you're going to go get that. So you're not saying no to drugs, you're saying yes to a better future. Then you're learning the effects that substances have on the developing brain and body. So even if you see adult using it, you know, hey, that's for them, not for me. And then finally, my favorite, develop skills for resilience, boundaries, and self-confidence. Because if you have a confident student with skills, it doesn't matter what anyone else tells them to do or what kind of peer pressure there is around them. they have the skills to protect what's right for them. All right, I'm going to do what's right for me, and you do whatever you want to do, but I'm going to protect my friends and my future. And that leads us to what parents can do. If you're a parent, I have 5 tips for you, and I want to give you some conversation starters on it. The first one is to talk to them about their future. And this is so, so important, because if you think about your child's future, is no, they don't have that long-term thinking yet, right? Their frontal lobe isn't developed to their, mid-20s oftentimes. And so oftentimes we have to do some hard thinking for them in the beginning and talk it out so they can start strengthening that muscle in their brain. But in the meantime, what we can do is talk to them about their goals, their future, so it becomes something they want to protect. We're going to help provide that hope that your future can be amazing. You can do it and have experiences that lead them down that direction. And then we're going to build that resilience and that confidence, because not only are they finding reasons why they shouldn't use drugs and they should do good things, but they're going to have the sense of belief that needs to happen. If you keep telling them, oh, you can do this, you can do that, but they don't believe it, it's not going to translate into actions. So the more that we talk about it, then the more likely it's going to happen. So a couple ideas on how you can do this. Create an annual vision board with your students, with your kids. Talk about their dreams and their goals, even if it's just for the next year. Then you can point back to it. On their birthday, we do this activity even still, my wife and I. I'm 33. So my next birthday, we'll say, hey, what are 34 things you want to do in your year 34? And it builds some excitement for the future and gets us thinking about the future. When something bad happens, ask them things like, hey, have you felt this way before? Yeah, how long did that last? So they know they're going through something difficult, but that time's going to move on, and that they can still make decisions, not in the moment, but realize their emotions, what it's for, what it's supposed to teach them, and then move on to their future as well. And then this one is the really big one, is when they tell you their dreams and their goals. Oftentimes we want to tell them to not dream so big. Like maybe your student wants to be a pro athlete or an entertainer or a gamer or something like that. And we think, man, they're going to get hurt if they do that because they're going to fail. There's only this many people that get to do it. But in reality, they're going to learn so much and grow so much trying to achieve that goal. They're going to be motivated for school, for sports, for extracurriculars, and they're going to take action and do healthy things on pursuit of that goal. And if you take that away and you take away their passion, you take away the thing that they want to protect. And so they're more likely to make that risky behavior. So I want us to be cheerleaders for our students, no matter what their goals are. And as they go to reach that, even if they fall, then we're going to be there with them to help understand what we can learn from that experience. The next one I'll go through quickly because we already talked about a little bit with Dr. Crystal, is expose the impact of media. The easiest way I like to use this for parents and community members is, what media do students consume a lot of? Social media, music, and movies. Use that as a tool to start conversations about what they truly believe. And no one likes to be sold to. So today's generation, they really like cause-oriented companies. They want to believe in something and support a company who's doing something good in the world. So showing that these addiction for profit companies don't have our best interests in mind, and makes them less want to support them. So how does vaping influence the environment? What's it doing to landfills? What's it doing to people? What is alcohol doing for families? How is it disruptive? So things like that are really, really important. And then also knowing that when it comes to media and influence, showing them that they actually have an influence too. Even though they're not a media star, they're publishing things online. They're influencing their friends and their siblings. So even if you're not afraid of something bad happening to you by using a substance, what could happen to someone close to you if they follow in your footsteps? Oftentimes that's more powerful than just talking to them about their motives, especially when you get into those teenage years. So a couple things that you can do. Number one, teach your students about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, because when you talk about advertising and what they're really selling you, they'll see, oh, this product actually can't deliver this to me. They want me to believe it, but I can see through the ad. I can analyze it and say that's false. A substance cannot help me find love, feel secure, belong, or have more friends, things like that. It's not responsible for that. I have to do it. When you're watching movies, let your students pick, right? When you're listening in the car, give your student the aux cord and see what they're listening to, and then choose your conversations. Not after every song, you don't get an opportunity to lecture them or ask them questions, but maybe once a week, say, hey, this song, I remembered it said this. Do you think people at your school think that way? Or have you ever seen something like that? And they'll become open to talking with you. The third thing is to tell the right stories. And the big thing is you're open about addiction. If you see it in your life, you're talking about it. We have to destigmatize this and let them know this is a disease, but it's also a preventable one. So if someone is addicted, it's not that they're dumb. It's not they're a bad person. It's that they made a mistake. They used a drug to try to cope with something or to get something, and now it's taken over their life. And what they'll learn is that could happen to anyone. So we need to remove the stigma, talk about it, and then also avoid using those stories. Like sometimes I hear parents telling their students, oh yeah, I used to get drunk in college, or this funny story happened when I was drunk, and it's funny to them. But what it's saying to your student is that, oh yeah, you can go ahead and make all the mistakes that you want while you're young, and then you can be an adult like me. The truth is that students desperately want to be adults, and adults, we desperately want to be kids again. So they're going to catch our behavior. And our co-founder, Tomas Barraza, always says this. He says, good behavior is caught. It's not taught. And so while you're telling them good stories or shedding a light on addiction and how it could happen to anyone by being open about it, you're not glamorizing drinking or drugs with past stories, but you're also creating stories with them. So you can show them that they can have a great time. And that's why I'm really thankful that my parents did a good job of that. Growing up in Wisconsin, we would be camping or watching the Packer game. And sure, there were other adults that were drinking, but they were having just as much fun without doing that. And so what I'm saying to you is if you use that and you're of age, I'm not telling you should stop. I am saying though, are your kids also seeing scenarios where you're not doing that? And are you having good conversations about it? Then we have our expectations and boundaries. Students of all ages need this. There was a student that I talked to after a presentation recently, and he was telling me how he really knew his parents loved him and cared about him because they don't let him do whatever he wants. He has a curfew. He has expectations. They expect him to get good grades. So he knows they believe in him, and he knows that they want him safe. And so I asked, I was like, well, don't you feel jealous of the students that get to do whatever they want? And he said, well, not really though, because I see the stuff that they have to face, and it's not the same stuff that I have to face. And so he appreciates that way out. And so my ask for you is, as a parent, you can be that scapegoat for them or that way out. And when Dr. Crystal said you can drug test your kids if they've earned that, is even if it's going to be helpful beforehand, if you talk to your student about them, their expectations and boundaries that you set, and then ones that you create with them based on their goals, right? What are the expectations and boundaries do they want to protect their future? Do a partnership, create it with them. It's not just about you, but some you create and some they create too. And then you just hold each other accountable. And so that's really important. And then you can ask, how can I partner with you to make this easier? So some people have a safe code, like if their student is ever under a lot of pressure, they know that they can text their parent this one word. Their parent's going to call them and say, hey, family emergency, I need to come pick you up. And so they have a way out of that situation. Another one is the drug test. It's very easy to say, hey, I can't use that. My parents drug test me. Or they make me do they do random breathalyzer tests. They assume, and my consequences are going to be big. So you can partner with them to do that. And the last one is to practice casual curiosity. And this is going to reinforce everything that we talked about, but just get curious about your student's life in a way that makes going to you just something normal. I remember being at a Christmas party a couple years ago, and there was a father and daughter, and his teenage daughter. As soon as she came in the door, she walked into this party, she said hello to everyone, and then she beelined it to her dad, and they just looked at each other and they had a private conversation about her life. She was just spilling everything that happened in her life, for the past week. And it was like no one else was in the room. And I asked him about it, and he said, we have these conversations regularly. I'm so curious about her life, and I don't always need to lecture her. I look for those moments to do it so she knows she can come to me with whatever she's dealing with. And I think we can all learn from that, is we can be curious about their life, who they are, who they're becoming, what their values are, what they believe, what they're seeing at school, and then listen for cues when you can offer some advice and even ask their permission to say, hey, can I share something with you that I would have appreciated someone shared with me? Then when they say yes, then it's not a lecture anymore. You're a caring parent. And in order to do this, you really have to create that time in your schedule to spend with them. So I love what Dr. Crystal said about family dinners. I love car times. And something that my dad did that I really loved is he either got interested in what I was doing and my hobbies, or he pretended to get interested so we could spend time together. But that's one thing is, try to show interest and get them talking about things that they like. And then you're going to have more time authentically because you're doing something together. Like for me, that was golf. But that's what you can do if you're a school or a family. And that's what I have for you. If you need any other information, you can just go to vive18.com.
Hey, video. All right, Michelle.
It worked. Hey.
Great job, Jake. I think it's awesome. Thank you all of you for coming today. I just want to let you guys know you've got a triple team here. I encourage all of you to utilize Operation Parents TNT prevention program. Have us come to your school to train you on all the tools that are there and in Know Your Neuro, and have Jake White come out and do amazing student presentations for your community.
Yeah, one of our resources that we bring to the table from here at Operation Parents is the TNT program that you mentioned. And it is a drug education full package put together, posters, banners, bracelets, all the drug facts. And the adults in the room practice the drug facts with the students. And then they also, most importantly, practice refusal skills. So I know a lot of our drug-free coalitions that we are honored to partner with across the country are not large teams. They're small teams trying to do really big things. And so we had the opportunity back in September where we invited all the middle schools in our area to come to our event, and they did. We had over 400 students and parents that came to the TNT training event. So you can use this QR code to be in touch with us, and we would love to share with you how that went and the program itself and anything that we learned along the way. It's our first time doing it. We'll definitely do it again, but we're happy to share this product as well as all of our advice on how to put it on successfully. Our parent handbooks are another resource, Dr. Collier, that you know a lot about and we bring to the table. They are affordable. They cover over 20 serious topics that parents are dealing with today. several that we went over today: alcohol, tobacco, vaping, risky substances. And they do that in a really cool way, the elementary level or middle and high level. And so if you'd like to talk with us about those parent handbooks or just see some demos of those, you can use the QR code. We have amazing community advocates on our team that are more ready to be in touch with you to tell you a lot more. And then also, very exciting today, we have a giveaway of both Dr. Collier's Neuro Makes Good Choices, an adorable book, grades 3 through 5 is who we recommend that one for. That's right, Dr. Collier?
Yep.
3 through 5? Yep. And that is, there's a series of children's books that get your child warmed up. I mean, how early do we want to start? As early as possible. So this is one example, age 3 through 5, that you can read to your kids and get them thinking about everything they need their brain to do and how they're in charge of protecting it, making good choices with substances. And then Jake is bringing his resource to the table as well. I was going to, Amanda, can you flip back just for one sec? Beyond Drugs, Alcohol, and Vaping Student Workbook. He's offering 4 of those. So when you register to win the book giveaway today, you're actually going to get a bundle of our resources. We've talked to you about the trio power of our team here today. You're going to get, if you're lucky enough to win, one of the 4 winners, you're going to get a sample in the mail of our resources, and we can't wait to get those out to you guys.
And that resource has 18 prevention activities for schools and families that are aligned with social emotional learning and the school counselor standards.
Fantastic. So we're talking about that circle of everybody working together. What a dynamo resource. Awesome. We've got questions in the queue already for both of you, so I can't wait to get started. But if anyone hasn't submitted a question yet, you're dying to, now is your chance. While you're doing that, I've asked Dr. Collier and Jake to both share some of the trends that they're seeing and hearing. They are with partners. They are presenting all across the country all year long. And so they are in front of a lot of people. And so I asked them to tell us, what are you seeing as the themes? What are you hearing from parents, Dr. Collier and Jake? What are you hearing from teens as some of the trending themes?
On my end, I'm hearing really 2 kind of areas. In younger grades, I hear a lot of technology screen problems, even down to the littles who trouble with vestibular systems because they're sitting all day long. Coordination is off. And, elementary school kids, attention, demandingness for screens, a lot of that. And then for older kids, I'm seeing high school and college, a lot of complaints from kids, young people, and parents about cannabis problems, hyperemesis, which is the vomiting illness, and a lot of psychosis that's actually not letting up. And it's, continuing to cause problems in young people's and their families' lives.
For me, the thing that I'm learning the most right now about students is whenever we are getting them set to do a project, right? They hear a presentation, they want to take action and make solutions. We go down the problem with them of substance use, and they say, why are our students using? And they say things like anxiety and mental health, and that's a common theme. And then we talk about, what do you want to do to help solve this problem and what's underneath it? And a lot of it is boiling down to this feeling of they don't feel connected to one another, and they feel like there's not a sense of community, and they desperately want to create that. And so I think when it comes to school culture and giving students positive activities to meet each other and to find community, is we're building those strong students. And it's not just our idea. If we let them create it, like they're coming up with the idea on their own, it's what they really want too. So they really do want to connect with each other. And I don't know if it's from screens or post-COVID, but they desperately want to connect.
Absolutely. Our audience is asking you both if you have resources available in Spanish, or you could recommend organizations that do.
Sure. The parent guide, the Neuro Whereabouts Guide, is available in Spanish on Amazon. I'm actually putting the whole children's book series in Spanish. That's coming, as well as the entire website, knowyourneuro.org. All the videos will be dubbed in 8 different languages by the spring of next year. Although right now you can use the Google translation to translate the website into other languages, but the videos are subtitled, but soon coming, we'll have fully dubbed videos for you.
Fantastic. How about you, Jake?
Yeah, for our curriculum and toolkit that you saw with those 18 prevention activities, we are set to have it fully translated by March of 2025. So just 3 months from now, we'll have that completed. And then also we send out parent videos whenever we go speak at schools. We've noticed it's harder to get parents to attend an event, which is why resources like Operation Parent Have are so effective, is like we can get it to them. And so we also publish videos for parent education, and we put those in Spanish as well. And those are actually done right now.
It's amazing. Awesome.
And can I add something, Michelle? That
absolutely.
If anybody wants information about Vive18, you can use that QR code that's on the screen right now. And there's a quick form, and I'll also send you 3 resources. There's a student guide to thriving in school without using drugs and alcohol. There's the adult guide that we talked about today that has everything laid out. And then also there's a school coalition or club guide to get more young people involved in peer-led prevention. And I'll send to all of those to you. And then you'll be there. You'll have our info if you need anything else.
Well, it's our lucky day. Anyone who's on the call with us today, lucky day from hearing from both of you guys. Our handbooks are also available in Spanish. So anyone who wants to check those out can go to Operation Parent /shop and check out this. All editions of the handbook are available in Spanish. Okay. What do you guys recommend for the strategies for schools to deal with vaping infractions? How should schools deal with it? And then the second part of the question is, how should parents deal with that at home?
Sure. Jake, you want me to take this one first?
Yeah, I've got something, but if you got something, I'll hear it.
Sure. Well, I think it starts with education early on, letting kids know that nicotine is the #1 most addictive substance on the face of the earth. And it takes about 10 years for your average smoker to quit. We don't even know how long it takes for people who vape, but nicotine and all of the additives in it. And, Jake said something earlier when he was able to you want to empower kids to say, hey, I can see you doing that, adult, but that's not for me. Making sure the expectations are there. And if a parent uses it themselves, to make sure, even though they're addicted to it, that it's off limits for kids. And if they find it, to make sure that they get some help. I do smoking cessation hypnosis in my practice. I've helped a lot of kids work on vaping cessation. So making sure that there's a lot of really great online tools for treatment as well. And for schools, it's really critical that they have the updated policies and procedures, because a lot of times it still says cigarettes. And we want to make sure that, they have very clear guidelines for vaping, and that kids not only get an appropriate consequence, but also get treatment and assessment for kids who are struggling with and unable to stop.
Yeah, that's a great question. That I will echo everything Dr. Crystal said, and to say that there's some schools that are still doing the punitive, hey, if you use, you're suspended. And that doesn't really do anything. It gives them more free time to go use, takes them out of something positive like school, and it doesn't instill them with any new skills or education. So finding a restorative program, a cessation program, like she said, is really, really important, and find one that works for you and for your area, that speaks to your students. And then I'll mention there's 3 types of students. There's the ones who aren't using, and they're not going to because they have all these protective factors, and they're right. Like the science is going to show you that that student will remain drug-free, God willing. The second one is that when you have the students who are kind of in the middle, they can be swayed. They don't have that confidence yet, but they can be swayed either way. and then the students who are using right now and they need help. And so when you think about prevention, we need to always have a target audience and know who the message is for. We can't be doing the same prevention strategies for people that are addicted to a substance and they really need help and treatment. And so have those partners, accept help from those partners like coalitions and treatment centers and professionals who want to help your students. Find a way to build those partnerships because your students are going to really benefit from it.
Ooh, I love the way you broke that down into the 3 categories. That gives us some thinking to do over the holiday break about how we could tackle that issue. Yes. Okay, so another viewer says, many of us grew up in the just say no era. And so today's teens are not receptive to scare tactics or ineffective things like that. So what do you recommend as maybe a quick message or tip to that? Anything? We all agree, no scare tactics. Like they don't work, right?
You know, I remember when I was a kid laughing and giggling at all of the commercials on TV that, you know, showed the fried egg, here's your brain on drugs videos. Interestingly, though, a lot of the prevention public service announcements do their job by educating kids. So know your neuro, know how these affect your brain and what's going on, and then practice those refusal skills.
That's so good. Skills. That's it. Skills. So if you're going to tell them to say no to something, you need to give them the skills to get everything they wanted, why they wanted to use that drug in the first place, or why it seemed appealing. And that's why when we talk, hey, we need to help students make friends, have fun, and feel good without using substances, and give them a skills and a platform to do it. Because if you imagine the world of prevention and we're telling students all these things, just say no. Social norm says students don't need drugs to have fun. Okay, you're telling me that, but what proof do I have? And so I think we need to turn social norms into social proof. And that's what communities like ours do. And why we want to help empower students to throw these events, these drug-free events, and do what we did, because it's going to prove it for them and it's going to give them a safe place to belong so they stay in that environment.
I love that. Having a social norm, one brain, one choice. That's it. And then giving them the skills to promote it. Some of the best models for prevention in the world, like the Icelandic model, one of the key factors and elements of their program is they start friendship groups when kids immediately enter school. And those are groups that are changed every month. The parents are required to go for a coffee once a month to get to know other people. And I think schools can do that. We've seen some schools in our area start to adopt practices like that. What is the opposite of addiction? Connection. But we're more disconnected in our world than we ever have been before because of screens. So how can we bring back in-person events and get kids connected and grow those social skills?
Awesome. I think we as parents too, sometimes we underestimate just like that quick check-in. I remember you took me back to when my daughter was really little. We're out in the front yard tossing a ball, and I said, well, if a neighbor offers you a cigarette or, a vape, what are you going to say? And she's like, oh no, that's disgusting. And I was like, okay, that's a really good start. And so we went with that. And then we kept sort of practicing that, strengthening it, like you're firm, you're going to this is there's some other reasons. And, but yeah, she thought it was totally disgusting. She wasn't going to do it, but someone might have been able to wiggle in that opportunity if she wasn't firm, in her refusal skills and confident. So I love what you're saying there about the just confidence, connection, building the circles around them. And it's never too early to start asking, and then to ask about higher level stuff as they get older and practice. They have to have a few things in their pocket to be able to deal with it on the spot, I think. Excellent. Okay. Any resources or ideas for parents of neurodivergent teens?
Oh, absolutely. Remember executive functioning skills. A lot of times we don't even hear about what that means unless we have a kiddo who's neurodivergent, because we hear that a lot with kids who have learning differences because they may have executive functioning skills issues. But remember the brain's rule, use it or lose it. So that applies for all kids, but especially kids who have learning difficulty. Making sure that they get executive functioning skills coaching is really critical.
Can't say it better than that. That's your area. You got it.
Nailed it. Yeah, perfect.
One more thing I think to remember too is I've had my prevention program in a couple schools for kids who have learning difficulties. And through my work there and the research, I found that a lot of kids who have learning differences are victims of high-risk behavior rather than perpetrators in many cases. And so refusal skills and practicing those refusal skills, just like Michelle talked about with her daughter, is really critical to do. So you want to think about, okay, 6 10-minute conversations per year and what that sounds like, and always end it with praise for using and practicing a refusal skill.
Outstanding, outstanding, outstanding. I'm now flashing forward, and that daughter has gone to college, you guys. And when she moved into her first residence hall room, there was some information outside in the hallway of the residence hall about fentanyl. And so I was so thankful for that. And we got to look at that and talk about it there. And we've already been discussing it. And I sent her with Narcan to college because she's a lifeguard and she has CPR skills. And so gave her some ideas of just being ready and things to look for.
That's really cool.
Can you all think in your travels? So it's hard to, parents are really, really busy today. And on the school side, schools are asked to do a lot in the classrooms and on the public health side and just getting information out to students. But as you've gone to schools, maybe what's stuck out to you is like a really good strategy to get parents engaged in your programming or at the school. What was your most favorite visit with that this year?
Well, let me take that one first, Jack. I love doing family code workshops, and I have on knowyourneuro.org, the school section, a free PowerPoint. So I can walk your school through doing a family code workshop. As young as 7 is the age that kids should come. Having a workshop in a school, especially for back to school night. Back to school night is when you get most parents showing up. And if you have a handout that says, here's how to build your family code, on the other side, here's some scripts that you can use as your kid goes through the school year to help prevent high-risk behavior in those 6 prevention conversations, making it really easy, empowering parents. So that's one of the best times to actually get face-to-face time with parents is during that event.
Yeah. And I think some of the best examples I've seen of people doing this is when they integrate their prevention initiative and outcomes to what the community really cares about. Because yes, it's hard to get parents to show up to things. If that was my number one job, I might have more to tell you about how to do it successfully, but I've seen 2 really successful ones. The first is, of course, bringing the food, bringing something fun for their kids to do. That takes a lot of money, a lot of effort, a lot of volunteers. The other way is to find your champion within the school, as high ranking as you can, like from the district or from the board, who's like sold out for prevention and what you're doing, and see if you can partner with them to get into whatever the town is obsessed with. If they're really into band, if they're really into athletics or the decathlon or whatever it might be, STEM, get into that group first and show them how your prevention strategies are going to help excel that thing that they care so much about. And what happens is the adults are going to be like, oh yeah, if it helps my kid get a better chance for a scholarship or do this, you're now speaking to what they care about, and you've integrated it into that program, that academic program or the athletic program. And maybe it's mandatory. Parents, you have to show up this for your students to participate in athletics. You need to show up to this because you have that person way at the top who's advocating for you.
Oh, I love that so much. That's amazing. My favorite thing this year has been schools that have used either the TNT program and the handbooks or solo, and used opioid money to help with the funding of those. And so for those of you, opioids and fentanyl are all on our top of our list as concerns. And so it's been really awesome to watch schools use them in a variety of ways that match their community, what their needs might be, what they need to focus on in that moment to put together, a package that could work. We've also used our digital handbook that worked a little bit with some of the rural communities that wanted to do some opioid education and get out to parents in a way that's unique. So those are a couple of my favorite things. All of our resources are evidence-based, all three of our resources, evidence-based and affordable, very affordable. So I just am excited for you all to take a look at what we've offered you today and just keep in touch with us and let us know how we can help you in the new year. That's what we're here for. That's what drives us in all of our work. And so I look forward to staying in touch with you, Dr. Crystal Collier, you, Jake White, as well as everyone that's on the call with us today. This has really been amazing, and we look forward to figuring out how we can help you out.
Thanks,
all right, you're welcome. Everybody have a good afternoon. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye. See you soon.